Thank you guys for taking the time to come down and talk to us again. For anybody with a tech background, you probably get more than me. The video right now is rendering, so we don't have the video to show you. It will be put in a Dropbox, which we'll have emailed to you, so you'll have access to it. I was hoping to go through it with you right now, but what you're going to see is you're going to see body-worn camera video of a couple of the officers, including the 2 officers that are in the patrol car. You're going to see their in-car camera video of that car. And of course, what I'm referencing is the officer-involved shooting from yesterday. Back on October 11th, Tamika Wright was killed by Patrick Jones. They had a domestic relationship. She was shot in the head in her car. The vehicle then crashed. Patrick Jones fled from the scene, and we haven't seen him since. You all in the media helped us out a few days ago. The police department was asking for help. We put his mugshot out, and we had obtained a warrant for his arrest several weeks ago. He had been hiding in various places around the city, and the community came through. We had a tip from Silent Observer yesterday indicating that he might be in the 1300 block of Cass. We had officers go over there, try and corroborate that information. As the officers drove up on the scene, they encountered Patrick Jones, who pulled a gun out and started shooting at the patrol car. What you'll see in the video is the patrol car's hood, windshield struck. You'll see glass spraying. These officers thought that there was a chance that they could have been hit. It was very chaotic. They returned fire. One other Grand Rapids police officer returned fire. The offender then fled the location and is last seen on video by actually a bystander's cell phone video holding a gun to his head. A single gunshot was heard, and he was found by Grand Rapids police officers deceased on the ground. So at this point in time, we can say that the investigation as it plays out by the Michigan State Police will most likely indicate that this is a suicide, as there were no police officers in the area and no police officers fired their gun when that gunshot can be heard on various audio systems. So that's the update I have for you. Again, we'll get the video to you later today. I'm joined today by Captain Trigg, who is the incident commander. He's the captain of the South Service area. He was the incident commander on scene yesterday. And if you have any questions for us to clarify, of course, thank you guys for coming down, and I'll take your questions at this time.
So you said, go ahead. You mentioned he was hiding in various places, and he was at a home yesterday. Do we know who owned the home, or are there any arrests pending?
That is something that we're looking into. So we are looking into seeing who was helping him, who was harboring him, because we think that that's a potential criminal offense did take place in whoever was concealing him. But obviously it was someone in the community that stepped up and also gave us information, said this individual who murdered the mother of 5 was not going to be able to go not held accountable. So we appreciate that information. Yes, sir.
Can you give us a general idea what the motive may have been in that killing? Was it heat of the moment, or was this maybe a long-standing feud that boiled up in that moment?
We're still piecing that together. There was obviously the victim is deceased, and now the offender is deceased, but there was a domestic relationship, and Mr. Jones had a very violent past. He was on parole for home invasion, weapons offenses. He also had previous domestic violence arrests. So we know the propensity for violence was there. The history of domestic violence was there, so it was domestic in nature, but as to what the actual argument was in that car on that day when he killed her, I don't know.
Previous arrest involving the same victim?
No, different woman. No.
Chief, are you able to speak to, we know that there's a school pretty close by, the students were evacuated. Can you speak to, why that was done? And we've heard some rumors that students at the school may have seen what happened. Can you just speak to confirm or deny that, and then why you decided to handle that situation the way you did?
Sure. So the offender fled the area from that stop, or actually was running and shooting, and ended pretty much directly in front of the Southeast Pathways Academy on the south side. And like you said, there were actually students that were there. Now, Michigan State Police is conducting the investigation, so they went over there and they would have interviewed all the witnesses. But I believe when we upload the video, you'll see at least a still shot of some cell phone camera video from either a teacher or a student that was recovered showing Mr. Jones outside of that school with the gun to his head at that time. So as far as evacuating the school, we didn't call for the evacuation. Immediately when it came over the air that he was headed towards the school, we made notifications to Grand Rapids Public School Security. They went into lockdown where they secured the area and waited for us to give the all clear. At that point in time, because we had a very significant, about 2-block crime scene, and it was going to be logistically difficult for them to operate, they decided to do an early dismissal.
Can you speak a little bit too about, this tip came from Silent Observer. I know, I can speak for all of us, we report that a lot because it's an anonymous way to tip the police. Can you talk about why that's such an important resource for you guys to use, and maybe this, this was an unfortunate outcome, but this is how you guys can resolve situations?
A lot of people there's a lot of people, most people in the community, they want to do the right thing. But the reality is, in some criminal incidents, there's a fear there. In this case, this man was known to a lot of individuals in the community as someone that they were afraid of. So to say, do the right thing, step up, come forward with that information, it's easy for me to say, standing here in uniform with a vest on. But somebody that's living in the community, that might be his neighbor, might be somebody else, there's that fear there. And if that ability to report a tip like this anonymously gets them to the point where they'll share that truthful information so that we can bring justice to individuals like this, who killed this innocent woman, whatever it takes to get there as well. Silent Observer, I know, recently even increased their rewards for information like this. So they've been a tremendous help to us, big supporter of theirs.
So, just to clarify, this is definitively Patrick Jones that was involved?
Definitively Patrick Jones, yes. I can say, too, an autopsy was conducted on him today, although there was exchange of gunfire with police officers. The only gunshot wound that he sustained was the self-inflicted one to his head.
Family members have said that Patrick said that he did not kill Tamika. Can you describe what evidence you have against him?
You know what, all I know is a warrant was approved by a judge who thoroughly reviewed all the evidence. I didn't review the case myself, so I can't give you everything, but I'd say typically in that case we'll have the individuals who were in the area as witnesses. If there's 2 individuals in a car, one is murdered with a gunshot and one is seen fleeing from the car, that's extremely good circumstantial evidence. I don't know what biological forensic evidence was recovered, but whatever it was got to the point where a judge said definitively, I will sign a warrant for his arrest. So, that's information I could get back to you and share with you in the future.
And to clarify, we don't know whose house he was at yesterday.
We have information, we've identified the address and everything. We're not sharing that at this time, and I don't want to interfere with the Michigan State Police investigation as well.
Have you been in touch with Tamika Wright's family after yesterday? I'm sure there's a lot of emotions on both sides, but have you been able to be in touch with them?
We had detectives on scene that had a connection with both Tamika Wright and actually Patrick Jones's family as well. So between us and the Michigan State Police as well, we've connected with the families, yes. Thanks. Oh. Yes, sir.
We know of at least one person who says her second-floor apartment was at a bullet hole because of the shooting. Are you aware of any other random gunfire that ended up hitting any dwellings or anything else that we see?
While the investigation is not ours, I will say that we were on scene quite a bit helping out the Michigan State Police, and I did see them processing a couple cars which looked like they had already also been hit by gunfire. I don't know at this point in time, but perhaps they do how many rounds total were fired. I do know that there was an extra magazine. Patrick had at least 2 magazines on him, so that's a significant amount of rounds that could have been fired. I think that'll all probably come out in the investigation in the end.
Standard handgun or?
It's right, yeah, it was a 9mm semi-automatic handgun, yeah.
So can you explain what happened at Jefferson and LaBelle? Like, did the whole incident start there?
Sure, and what you'll be able to see when the video is turned over to you guys is Grand Rapids police officers, 2 of my special response team's officers, had received information that an individual fitting the description of Patrick Jones was in the area. They drove up. There was, it's a cold day. There's not that many people on the street. He was walking on LaBelle, and the officers came upon him. As they approached him, trying to probably determine who he was, he raised a gun and started shooting directly at the officers.
So that was just the initial sighting?
That's right, yeah. And essentially, prior to that, any information that we had was just that he was in the area. So it was just that he's walking. He wasn't out waving a gun. He wasn't out, doing it. He was probably trying to lay low and not get seen by many people.
So
And we had officers.
So when he sees police.
Right, he sees police. We had officers that were working in an unmarked car, but it's clearly a police car. It's got teardrop spotlights. It's got all the markings of a car. So he saw that. He made the connection. Obviously, he's probably been very paranoid as he's been moving around the past few weeks, and he's very cognizant of the police. It's pretty much just one car on the road is a police car, and just him. And he probably knew that they knew who he was.
This isn't the first time that a Grand Rapids police officer has been shot at, even in the last 6 months. I think June was one we had with a 17 or 18-year-old. Can you talk about, like, based on your experience, how common is it for people to be shooting at police?
Yeah, we've had two. This is the second time in 2 weeks that we've had somebody try and murder one of our officers. So it's very uncommon. I hope it gets much more uncommon, but it's very unsettling. I know this is a very specific case with a wanted killer that's on the loose. It's an inherently dangerous situation, but it's still very unsettling. We just had an officer, when our K-9 was stabbed, that individual had shot at police officers before that. So I know these two officers, I spoke to them last night, the ones that were in the squad car that received the fire. Once you see the video and you see how close these officers came to death, extremely disturbing. And I know that I have a strong, obviously, concern for the well-being of the officers. We have a great wellness program here, but very unsettling once you see the video.
And can you talk about, too, because these officers, the special response team has been utilized in numerous of different ways, but is this the first time that they've been executing, like looking for a homicide suspect in this way? And is it important that it's the special response team that's there, specialized in things like this when it's a known violence?
They have enhanced training. Like, for example, when we have a SWAT-type incident, they are the ones that are trained to engage in that. However, as you said, we use them well. I know Captain Trigg used them to do door-to-door canvassing in the South Service area, as did Captain Dixon in the East Service area there. So they can do it all, from community engagement to literally barricade situations. It was that team that made entry when our K-9 Eli was stabbed. So this is something that they are a discretionary resource, that they're a group that's not always tied down to 911 calls. And in fact, prior to this incident, during the day, they were doing foot patrol downtown. And this incident happened, and they said, who's available? And these guys are highly trained, and nothing really catches them off guard. This is something that will catch anyone off guard, and I think it's very disturbing once you see the video.
So, Chief, normally you are able to walk us through the video, like you said,
Yeah.
it's rendering. Is there anything that would be helpful for you to explain ahead of us getting it when we're not all together? Because I know sometimes you have to black things out or blur or edit things for privacy or investigation. Is there anything that you want the public to be aware of?
I appreciate you asking that question, because it'll give me an opportunity. Number one is once you see the video, how we're editing it now, we did include slides that will have information kind of guiding you through things. But two important things, once we're talking about these hero officers, you'll see them talking to each other, and they're saying, are you hit, are you hit? And the answer is, I don't know, because it's such an intensely traumatic situation that as a police officer, when you encounter fire like that you really don't know. And you'll see the officers step out of the car, and they'll literally pat each other down to see if there's blood, to see if there's any pain. So it's something that I think if you weren't a police officer, you might not understand what's happening. That's one thing. And the second thing you'll see is, I believe we included some footage of the first officer arriving on the scene where Mr. Jones has died. And the reason that we included that was to show you, because there was a lot of speculation of, did the police shoot him, did he shoot himself? It's to show you that there are no police officers around. Having said that, if it was a police officer that shot Patrick Jones, because of everything that happened, I have no doubt that it would have been justified.
Chief, just to clarify, was there more than two officers there at LaBelle and Jefferson? Or was
There were several officers on foot. There were two officers right there at that location in the car, and they were the closest, and they were the only ones that Patrick Jones obviously saw, determined to be police officers. And then once the shots were fired, I had my radio on in my office. I was listening. I know a lot of officers were listening. In a matter of moments, there were numerous police officers down there. Yeah, and you'll see many police officers on the video because of that.
And finally, were there two officers that fired or three?
There were only two. Yesterday, I believe I said there were three officers that fired. There were only two officers that fired. One fires from inside his patrol vehicle. One fires from outside where he's standing.
Can you speak to, when an incident like this happens, I mean, we've talked about staffing issues before with Grand Rapids Police Department. This one person's careless actions, Patrick Jones, and firing and creating this, all of you guys are in one portion of the city right now. What kind of burden does that place on the police department? Why is that important in the city?
It is a burden as far as calls, less important calls, like theft reports, things like that, they would have to hold. And we went into a call backlog yesterday because it's a drain on resources. Having said that, our partners from the Michigan State Police came. They were blocking off roads for us. They were extremely helpful. East Grand Rapids came to back us up. They helped out. So that release of burdens, and pretty quickly we were able to get some of our officers back into the role of being able to cover the entire city effectively. But any big incident like this, it is a tremendous drain on resources. Yeah. Yes, sir.
You said yesterday 3 of your officers are on paid leave as the MSP investigates, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
And all 3 fired shots at doing the exchange?
So there's 3 officers that are on administrative paid leave, and that's one of the officers that was in the vehicle that was struck that did not fire, one of the officers that was in the vehicle that was struck that did fire, and then another police officer that fired but was not in that car.
Okay.
I appreciate you guys coming down here very much. Thanks for taking the time. Sorry that the video is still rendering, but it should be hopefully just moments till you get it.
And if there are any follow-up questions, once the video is done rendering, we have it.
Absolutely, reach out. I'll be available. I'll probably be here all night.
Just to clarify, he didn't come out of a house there, he was just walking down the street.
When the officers encountered him, he was near the house where we had information from, but they didn't indicate whether or not he actually came out of that house or not. We weren't able to put that together before this went down.
Gotcha. Did he jump across the school property, or do you know?
He was close. I believe he was possibly in the parking lot at some point in time. I believe one of our officers actually called out, and you'll hear it in the audio from the video, that he's running through the school, or he's running to the school, and then he's right in front of the school.
How
Yeah.
long typically are officers on leave after something like this happens where they're shot at?
So what we'll make sure that they don't return to full duty until the prosecutor makes a determination of whether or not there's some criminal action that he's going to take against the police officers. But we'll make sure that they get access to a counselor, make sure that they go to a stress debriefing program, and make sure that they're in the right place before they even come back to work. Once they're in work, while we're waiting for that word from the prosecutor, we'll have them work in the training unit or some other administrative job where they can help out until they're ready to get back to full duty. All right, thanks. I'll say goodbye one more time. I appreciate you guys for coming down. Thank you.